Hello and welcome to German with Linkademy. I'm Daniel and I've worked as a German tutor for the past 7 years. I currently live in Brazil and I mostly self-taught myself Portuguese, and in this video I would like to talk about my language learning experiences and how you can apply the same ideas and methods to learn German, or of course any other language if you like. So I will be talking about how I learned Portuguese and how you can apply the same ideas and methods to learn German. But of course, feel free to also keep watching if you're learning another language, because a lot of the ideas will be relevant as well for any other language. Now, when it comes to learning a language, there are usually two types of learners: individual learners or group learners. If you are an individual learner, usually it's best to work with apps. This is what I will recommend you. But there are also people who learn better in a group, so you might want to visit a course. Now, if you visit a course, most courses will use some sort of course book in order to teach the language. I personally did not use books that much for self-learning, mostly because for Portuguese I did not find these many books out there. And the ones that I found were really focused on group learning, and half of the exercises used a CD, which was not that helpful for me because I didn't even have a CD player at home. I tried to play it on my PlayStation, but it said it does not support CDs. And after Googling, it said that Sony decided that CDs are an old medium that nobody uses anymore. So I did not use books that much. But I recommend that you go to a bookstore if you like learning with books, of course. Go to a bookstore and just have a look around what kind of books you find, if there's anything that you believe will be useful to you. And I definitely will say that not every material that worked great for me will be working great for you. Books didn't work that well for me, but they might be the best method for you. So I always recommend to try out anything. So what worked best for me were apps and online platforms because they encouraged me to do something every day. Basically, they send you a notification. They're like, "Where are you? Why are you not studying?" And then you just get back to learning. And it really is important that you try to do something every day. It doesn't have to be every single day. You can, of course, sometimes skip a day, but try to learn daily and try to make it a habit to learn every day. If you try to learn a language every day, no matter how difficult the language is, after a year, that's 365 days of learning, you will have learned something. I can guarantee that. So the first platform that I personally would recommend, if you're just getting started and you're not really sure whether you will keep on learning the language and you don't want to invest money yet on that language and your learning process, then I would say start with Duolingo. Duolingo is free to use, at least the free version. There's a premium version that I personally do not recommend. Um, but if you just want to get started, you can use the free version of Duolingo, which will teach you the basic vocabulary. You learn some pronunciation, but it will pretty much ignore the grammar. Now, the premium version of Duolingo will allow you to save these courses offline. So if you don't have an internet connection, you can use it. You also don't have to watch ads. Now, like I said, I don't really recommend the premium version, but Duolingo is a great way to get started. Now, like I said, Duolingo is mostly for people who are not that serious about learning languages, and if you don't want to spend money on language learning. But if you seriously want to learn a language, I would recommend to try some premium apps that you have to pay for. There are two that I can recommend based on my language learning. I used a lot of Bubble and Rocket Languages. These two helped me the most, more than any books or other materials that I've used. Now, Bubble I recommend if you have shorter periods of time, and Rocket Language I recommend if you have a bit longer periods of time. Um, I think Rocket Language I liked a bit more, mostly for the reason that it is a one-off purchase, so I paid for it. I hope it's still like that. I will have a look after recording this video actually. Um, but I only paid for it once, and it was mine. Okay, so if at some point you don't learn for like 2 months, 3 months because you're busy, you're not paying extra. Whereas on Bubble, well, it's a monthly subscription. It's worth it in my opinion, but you pay every month. So in the end, Bubble is probably gonna be more expensive than a one-off purchase of Rocket Languages. The sessions on Bubble last around 15 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes. They're pretty well structured. Um, with time, they sometimes got a little bit more repetitive, in my opinion, than Rocket Languages, but it's definitely one of the places where I've learned the most. Okay. In general, I say mix up materials, right? Don't always study only with one material because most of them will get repetitive after a while. So use some Bubble, use some Rocket Languages, maybe even stick with Duolingo some more. Watch videos on YouTube. YouTube is another material that helped me a lot learning Portuguese. Um, there are plenty of YouTube channels. For Portuguese, not even that much, but for other languages, there's so many. I also learned a little bit of Japanese, and I found many great channels that helped me learning that. Um, yeah, but check out these materials. Now, if you already speak some German, I recommend that you try Italki. Italki is one of the biggest, if not the biggest platform where you can find a German teacher or German tutor. So on italki, you can practice your speaking and conversation skills, but also ask grammar questions. So this is like one of the downsides of apps. They help you, they're great, but you cannot ask any questions. On italki, you will have a tutor. Some tutors are really cheap. You can sometimes find a lesson from only $5, $6. German tends to be a little bit more expensive, but you still find some newer tutors with a bit less experience for $5 for 30 minutes. So give it a chance. I actually work on italki as a German tutor, and I will leave a link to italki in the description below. So this was also how I learned Portuguese. Well, I started off with some books that I didn't really enjoy, started Duolingo because I didn't use the book regularly, so I thought maybe let's try an app. Used Duolingo, felt the limitations of grammar, then went for Bubble and later on Rocket Languages as well. And I do feel like these already prepared me a lot. And then before I moved to Brazil, I took around 50 sessions of conversation practice myself on italki. And when I arrived in Brazil, I was not fluent, I would say, but I could communicate pretty well in the language and I felt well prepared to live here. So I definitely recommend these materials. So this is how I learned Portuguese as well. I started off by buying a few books that I didn't enjoy that much because I didn't use them regularly. And then I downloaded Duolingo, started using that every morning whilst having some coffee, trying to practice for 15 minutes every day. Um, then I downloaded Bubble and started using Rocket Languages and just try to do something, if possible, every single day. Um, and do a lot of speaking practice. Speaking is very important when you learn a language, so don't forget about the speaking part. Okay. So if you have any other questions about learning a language, feel free to leave a comment below, and I'm happy to make a follow-up video answering any of your questions. So see you in the next video. And of course, please subscribe to my channel and like the video.